So if I were David, I wouldn't be seen anywhere near an eyeball. I wouldn't mention the word eyeball. I would take the letter I out of my name. But in this scenario, David's like, oh, somebody gave me an eyeball that looks like it's bursting from somebody's head. And weirdly, it's the same color as Jeff's eye. I think I'm gonna pose next to it. Hi, my name is Aerin Moriarty, and welcome to What's Influencing Us, a twice-monthly show where I discuss all of the things in influencer news that's causing an influence on our lives. On the docket for today, I have 3 topics: Shane Dawson's current content, the people that he's working with, and what the heck is going on there, the Balenciaga scandal with the babies and bandage teddy bears, and finally the continuing saga of David Dobrik, Jeff Wittek, and the excavator accident. So if you're unfamiliar, David Dobrik and Jeff Wittek are primarily famous for their participation in the Vlog Squad. One of the forms of content that the Vlog Squad frequently employed was, oh my gosh, look at this dangerous situation that we're in. And in this situation, David Dobrik decided to spin around Jeff Wittek from an excavator while he had a camera in his hand. Now, insofar as we know, David Dobrik never took any training classes for this equipment, did not receive any certifications for this equipment, because obviously if he did any of those things, he would not have been operating it in such an unsafe manner. Now, Jeff Wittek, admittedly, he did decide, I am going to get on this excavator and go for a ride, because in this situation he trusted David Dobrik, because why wouldn't he? They had been friends for many years, and up until now we had always thought that it was an accident, that Jeff had just accidentally gotten smacked into the side of the excavator and there was no harm, no foul meant. But so recently David Dobrik opened a pizza restaurant with the most expensive, disgusting looking pizza that I have ever seen, and I cannot conceive how this place lasting, combination of the factors of how many people they have to pay to work there, all of the expenses for running a business, and the rent, which has got to be astronomical. I just don't think that enough people are going to come and pay, like, what is it, $36 for pizza? But however, it did recently open. Tana Mojo, who is best known for a lot of things, but currently is very active on Jeff's podcast and is one of his closest friends, showed up at the Dobrik's launch. Now here's the situation. If you were somebody who, say, was in an accident and you almost died and you had life-altering issues, do you think that your best friend would be on good terms with the person who did that? Because I wouldn't, and obviously Jeff didn't think that as well. So Jeff got a little bit angry at Tana for showing up at this launch, because there's currently a legal case going on. Jeff is suing David, and I think both Jeff and David are very aware of the fact that optics and how things appear is more important, honestly, than what actually happened at this point. And I think that David knew, in having Tana there being and posting photographs with her, that it makes him look less guilty. So obviously Jeff was upset by this, and he confronted Tana about it on one of his recent podcasts. And in the process of this, because Tana didn't seem to be listening to him, he said, what if I told you that this wasn't an accident, but more, say, a failed prank? Which completely changes the scope of what we thought was going on here. Because if David had deliberately been going too fast to try and scare him, or to try and have like a minor little oopsie happen, and that accident had resulted in Jeff almost cooking it, that is a huge thing in court. And it also just continues this theory that I have that David just genuinely does not care about anybody's life except his own. A theory that is continued when you consider the fact that he posted this picture on his social media the other day. He was presented with an art piece of his eyeball, which honestly, if I had knocked a friend's eyeball out of his head, I don't think I would be seen with an art piece of an eyeball ever, anytime, period, because the optics, again, like I said, optics sometimes matter more than what actually happened when it comes to these social media situations. So if I were David, I wouldn't be seen anywhere near an eyeball. I wouldn't mention the word eyeball. I would take the letter I out of my name. But in this scenario, David's like, oh, somebody gave me an eyeball that looks like it's bursting from somebody's head. And weirdly, it's the same color as Jeff's eye. I think I'm gonna pose next to it. And sure, maybe it was modeled off of your eye, but maybe somebody should have been like, wow, those 2 brown eyes, they look really effing similar. Maybe we should have some forethought in this. But still, whether this was something that he requested or whether this was something that just showed up on his doorstep, he posted a picture with it on his social media, which I think sends a certain messaging to a number of people. Jeff has said something a couple of times to the effect that he felt like David was like pressing his buttons, and I really do think that David is really good at being an instigator. He has realized that people don't pay so much attention to the person who instigates a scenario. They pay a lot of attention to the person who is reacting and responding to the scenario. And if that person does not react and respond 100% in the lines that people expect, it can have a huge negative effect on people's opinion on them. And I've seen rumors on the H3H3 subreddit that this is not the first time there's been an incident with somebody in an eye in David's life. There was something in his like high school. I'm not exactly sure on that, but that is interesting. It definitely would establish a pattern of behavior, that's for darn certain. Regardless, this just goes to show how much of your life in social media is controlled by the people that you befriend yourself with, the people whose reputations you align yourself with, the scenarios that you get involved. Because sure, getting involved with David Dobrik can have an incredible effect for your career, but if I was somebody that was new to the Vlog Squad or new to hanging out with David, I would be absolutely terrified at what he was willing to do at the expense of my well-being just so he can get some views. Now sure, he's leaving YouTube, but it genuinely shocks me how many people are still his fans in this scenario and do not feel that he did anything wrong in this scenario and feel like it was just an accident and that David was doing his best and Jeff is being unreasonable for still caring about. Jeff is going to have surgeries, expensive surgeries for the rest of his life to maintain his physical and mental well-being. Those surgeries are expensive, and according to Jeff, David has tried to weasel out of paying them. Personally, if I had been in a scenario like this and I had injured my best friend, I would be throwing money at them, driving them to their doctor's visit, scheduling their doctor's visits. I'd go to medical school to learn how to do the surgery if I thought I could, if I thought that that would help the scenario. But what we see in this scenario is David just like, la, it didn't happen. I'm just gonna pretend it didn't happen. Before we move on to the next topic, please be aware of the following trigger warnings. Recently, Balenciaga has come under fire for a series of images that featured young children around the age of 2 or 3 carrying teddy bears that were in bandage gear, but not bandage, a word that's similar to bandage, a word that the YouTube gods do not necessarily like me saying. Balenciaga originally put out a pretty poor statement about this issue, other than putting out an actual apology and pulling down everything off of Instagram. They've said that they're going to work with organizations to be educated and that they're going to do a full investigation. And I think a lot of people are like, sure, cool, glad, we're good, it's over. They accidentally did this and they realized it's wrong and now we're good, now we can buy Balenciaga, right? I do not feel that way at all. I think most people operate under the assumption that there are just a few bad eggs in the world and that they, for the most part, are not involved with major organizations. Because we want to believe that if we knew somebody who was going to hurt children, that we would be able to identify that. And unfortunately, a lot of times that's not the case unless you are the child that that person intends upon harming. Because they keep that side of their personality hidden from everyone else in their life, unless those people or other people who they know are into the same proclivities that they are. Young children. When I was a child, I was the victim of several adults, and I'm going to be doing a full video on that because I feel like things that I've learned from that are things that could help out a lot of other people. But one of the things that I've learned is there are a lot of people in this world that have these negative proclivities and that they try to communicate to other people that also have these negative proclivities. They have symbols and signs and things like that that they try and hide and subvert in their messaging. There are also groups online with people where people with these proclivities work to keep society open to the vulnerabilities that they are currently using to exploit children. For example, there's a big subculture online around communal bathing, showering together with your teammates at the YMCA, or a platoon of soldiers showering together, believing that this is one of the only way that people can actually bond with one another when they really need to bond, and when bonding matters, you need to do it nude. That is categorically not true, and a lot of the people trying to push that initiative are doing it because they want to have access to naked children at the Y that they can stare at. My suspicion is that one or more individuals within Balenciaga has these proclivities and was using Balenciaga's social media and advertising to try and signal to other people that within Balenciaga, there are sympathetic figures. And one thing that contributes to my suspicion is the fact that they removed everything from their social media. I wonder how many of their other photo shoots had little hidden symbols that were not quite as bad as this and did not necessarily get seen. I also feel like a lot of people have kind of just glossed over these images, possibly because they didn't necessarily understand the symbolism of the lifestyle that it's attached to. And for that reason, I want to discuss them in a little bit more detail. I have obviously censored out the children because I don't want to make something that is inappropriate to be seen. But what I will say is that the children looked sad and dejected and like they weren't enjoying the experience. First, it's really common when you're composing an image, especially in subversive art, it's common to have an object or another character or a demon or something like that is meant to reflect meaning onto one of the characters. For example, if a child is holding a stuffed animal that is a pet and is made to look like a pet, there are people with negative intent that would also infer that pet status upon the child itself. There are people who are going to interpret this as, see this teddy bear? What if these things were on me? There are things in this picture that contribute to that as well. There's a leash in this photo. Where is the dog? The way this image juxtaposes kiddie stuff with adult or inappropriate stuff helps to muddle the beliefs that we have about what is appropriate for children versus what is appropriate for adults. The simple fact of the matter is, if we get exposed to something over and over and over again, we get used to it and we start thinking that it's okay or that it's normal or that it's not that bad. The type of people making this sort of content want to slowly move the line of what is appropriate and not appropriate so that they can, again, continue to get away with the things that they've been getting away with, if not more. This child is laying down and their expression is kind of sleepy or out of it. And if you look in this picture, there's a lot of alcohol seen. If it was just a child holding a bear, it would be bad, but it wouldn't be that bad. The entire image spread, when you put it together, suggests that this child is a captive and is not in control of their faculties and may not not remember what happens to them. This photo has gotten a lot less criticism because the child is not actually holding the bear. Also, this appears to be a boy, which I think is kind of swaying people's opinions on the matter. And look, I'm not a child psychologist, but I am somebody who was hurt as a child and who used art as an outlet, and this art looks like the art of a child who has gone through some bad shit. There's caution tape on the chair as though this is a crime scene. And if you're not familiar with Balenciaga, I want to bring your attention to a previous campaign that they used these bears in, where the models actually had bruises and other wounds drawn on their faces. Balenciaga has a troubling recent history with associating fashion and abuse, and I'm not okay with it, but I'm particularly not okay with it when that theme migrates from adults who understand what they're consenting to children who are children. And I did some more research into this photographer to see some of his other work, and found that clearly Balenciaga hired him because of his previous work displaying children with their possessions. Now, if you've seen this photographer's other work, and you know that ordinarily in these type of pictures, children are photographed with things that are their own toys, then you see his work with these children and these possessions, you're going to assume that these items belong to these children, or maybe that the children are items being displayed too. Either way, it's really effed up. I've seen a lot of people trying to say, and oh, the children's parents were on site. The children's parents were Balenciaga employees. First off, they've clearly been surrounded by a culture that believes that this kind of stuff is okay. Second, they may have felt like they couldn't complain about something like this without losing their job, which is always a possibility. And third, I hate to say this, but we want to act like the people that are hurting kids are these strangers on the internet, or this guy in a white van. The large majority of harm to kids happens within their own home, within their school, within their church, with people that the family intimately knows. We have to stop acting like parents are always going to have their children's best interests at hand. Look at family blogs. And I think that makes a great segue to my next topic of conversation. Shane Dawson. First off, Shane has never really adequately addressed a lot of the concerns that people have had about him and younger fans, especially all of the videos of him kissing younger fans. And it's interesting because it seems like Shane is on this magical mystery tour of trying to revisit anybody that he had any previous success with who will still work with him, which ironically means that him, a person of poor reputation, is working with people that have even worse reputations. It astonishes me that anybody would agree to work with Destry, considering Destry, didn't he admit to like really inappropriate conversations with some fans? And I'm not talking like they were 17 and he was 19. I'm talking some of these fans were 12 when it started, allegedly. It's really clear to me that any talent that Shane had was probably the result of the other people that he was regularly working with or for, or the fact that YouTube had lower standards at the time. I think it's hysterical that a video where he ostensibly is talking about Jeffree Star and the yak farm and quitting YouTube, things that could hypothetically be interesting concepts, which are virtually unwatchable because Shane has decided to pad out the runtime with footage of his boring ass never-to-be in-laws and his fiance complaining, oh, when are you gonna marry me, in between bouts of them resenting each other. I get the feeling that there are a lot of people that don't realize how toxic their relationship because it's two dudes. And look, I'm not the same flavor of that they are, but I am. And what I can say is that men that are and actually love each other do not act like this. If you think this is an example of a healthy relationship, I am begging you, dear God, please watch from Tyler and Todd. These men actually love each other and display tremendous relationship ethics, and their content is actually interesting and well-edited. And when I watch Garrett's new channel, I suddenly understand how I was able to watch Shane for so long, because Garrett and Andrew did a video where they're just hanging out in an apartment for 2 hours, and I was captivated the whole time. Speaking of Garrett Watts, my theory on him is that Shane realized that his fans liked Garrett more than him, so he just stole all of Garrett's best personality traits and pretended they were similar all along. If you've seen any really old footage of Shane, particularly the behind-the-scenes footage from that terrible film that he did, you will see a completely different person than the wubby, soft, I don't have any self-esteem Shane Dawson. A lot of those traits really started to develop prominence when Garrett showed up and was really popular with his fan base. And it is so funny to watch Shane try to take that wubby personality of himself, and while he is working some of the inarguably worst people to work with on YouTube. And now I hear that not only do they want to bring a child into the relationship that does not seem to have any love, but it seems like at least one of them is going to make that child a focus of their content. I hate family channels. There are very few scenarios where I think a family channel is a good idea, because you basically put a parent in a scenario where the more they work their child, the more money they could get. And a lot of these channels are into pranks, are into lying to their kids, or faking things with their kids, and they do not seem to realize the harm that they can cause to their children. One of the things that I've seen about Shane and Ryland, and also about Nikocado Avocado and his husband as well, that their relationship drama is fake. It is not real. That is not how their relationship actually is. And maybe it's not. But here's the thing. One of the things that Hollywood and LARPers alike are realizing is that our brains are really kind of not that great at realizing the difference between real and make-believe. Sure, there's some ability to tell, but it's not as clear-cut as we would like to believe. And some of the things that people do fictitiously, like acting in a role, especially method acting, can have extremely deleterious effects on their mental health. There are a significant number of people that had major mental health crises after portraying a character that was particularly mentally ill in a film. Within Hollywood, some actors do specialized therapy to try and ensure that they're grounded in the real world and not living in the fake world. I have zero confidence that those people are going through the right type of therapy to process that, like I said, again, if the resentment in their relationships is actually fake and not real. And if they are not going through that therapy, they are adding a tremendous amount of resentment into their relationship for the purpose of views, and they are not getting that resentment out in any healthful way. It is awful for your relationship, and I think it also inspires other people to want to do awful things to their relationships to get famous, because it is a way that you can get famous. In a world where people are increasingly struggling to pay their bills, keep the heat on, get fed, pay the mortgage, social media, family channels, it's becoming more and more attractive to a lot of people who previously would have never considered it. And I do worry that there is no oversight. And if you've heard anything about Jeanette McCurdy and her situation recently, you will realize that in a lot of these scenarios, the parents are part of the factor that's working the children so hard. And one of the things that helps actors differentiate their real world and their fake world is the fact that they go to a set, they wear a costume, they wear different makeup. And sure, some YouTubers do go to a set and they do different hair and different makeup and stuff like that, but not Shane. Every once in a while, he pretends he's into makeup to try and get some money out of us, but Shane isn't going to a set with Ryland. They are filming these things at home in their house. So I've been watching Gem Reloaded. I really appreciate them doing commentary on Shane's stuff so I don't have to watch it. One thing I noticed while watching their videos is it's more than just Shane hating Ryland. Shane has a lot of internalized homophobia. I went to all-girls Catholic school. I know a lot about internalized homophobia from my own personal experience, and in particular, him and Ryland as well speak very poorly of men with emotion and sentiment and things like that, and things of that nature, which more than just being internalized homophobia suggests that they're misogynistic, which is really frustrating, given somebody that has an 80% female audience, an audience who probably isn't exposed to that many actually gay men in your life. Again, I say, watch an actual healthy gay male couple like Tyler and Todd or something of that nature, please. That's all that I have for today. Sorry I've been quiet. I was really sick and then I was having a lot of computer issues and I lost an entire video. So that threw my schedule completely off and caused me to create this new show. I'm hoping to get content up more quickly, especially within December. So yes, stuff will be coming. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. Thank you very much and have a lovely day.